Hi, everybody. Welcome into Sports Talk Chicago. Great to see everybody here with us on all of our great radio and TV affiliates across Illinois and Indiana. WKAN 105.5, The Ticket, ACTV, JED-TV, WJOB, and Cities 92.9 Talk FM. My name's Jon Zaghloul. John Meadows is directing and producing. We have a huge guest joining us right here in just a second. Remember, you can follow us all over at Sports Talk Chicago. Subscribe to the YouTube page at Sports Talk Chicago. Give us a thumbs up on this video if you enjoy it. And I really appreciate everybody being here tonight for a huge guest, somebody that we need to talk about who comes on right around this time every year. And we're certainly excited to have him here with us. He's a 7-time All-Star, current Baseball Hall of Fame candidate, which we're going to get to a lot in this interview, and the head baseball coach at the Miller School. Please welcome the MLB legend, Billy Wagner, to the program. Billy, it's great to see you. How are you?
Oh, I'm great, John. It's always great to be back and always fun to talk with you.
Thank you. Yeah, it's great to have you back here. Certainly looking forward to this conversation. Wanted to start by talking about your coaching. First of all, how'd this past year go for you down at the Miller School?
Well, high school baseball is always, you never know what you're going to get with young men and women. It has been fun. I think it's always fun when you're dealing with development, and that's your main concern. And I think going through pro ball and everything that I've been able to experience and being able to pass that down, has been great to be able to share with these young men and women. I have some tremendous athletes. I think somebody that stands out is a young lady that I coach, Naomi Ryan, who is on the U.S. Women's Olympic team, and being able to be an advocate for her and push her, and along with the other young men who are working to want to get to where I've been. Those are things that I really get excited about. And I tell you, I probably lose more sleep over that than I have anything else.
So how is it for you to kind of develop all these kids? As you said, they're all trying to make it to where you were. What's that like from your perspective, already being there and being this MLB legend?
Well, I think a lot of it's just being realistic and letting them know that you're in high school and try to be the best high school ball player that you can be before you start looking into the major leagues. And having that experience, it's easy to sit there and have that discussion about what these major league players actually look like. When you look at a Freddie Freeman and you look at some of these guys that are monsters that you can't see that on TV. You just can't experience it until you're in that dugout, in that locker room, and you walk by these guys and you just go, wow, these guys are monsters. Jason Hayward, the guys like that are just monsters. And so I think having that view allows me to sit there and go, hey, let's be the best high school player. Let's really develop that and then move on. And I've been so blessed. God's blessed me so much by being able to sit there and have some really, really talented players. I've got, I think, 8 players that are in pro ball now. I think I have 3 that are in AAA that are right on the cusp of getting their debut. So, I've been blessed to have that type of talent that come through, and, being able to travel and do things with these guys, give them experiences, and it has been very worthwhile. And you can see that in their growth.
As a developmental coach, you talk about all this success that you've had with some of your past players. Is there an ability for you or a want for you to move up from the high school level, maybe teach college or even go to the minor or even major league level?
Well, it would have to be the perfect situation by far. But I think the biggest thing that I enjoy in the high school is that mentorship, having that relationship to be able to talk to them, to really be real. I think the NCAA hampers you with coaches with the ability to have the relationship, to really, really focus on the development and growth of the game. I think now the game has become, if you're not, this monster by the time you're in the 10th grade, you're done. You can't play at these levels. I thank God that I was before this, because, I feel like I would have been one of those kids that probably doesn't, I probably don't get that opportunity today that I got back then, because people, I was very raw. Nowadays, you have to be so much better. My son's a pitcher. My youngest son's a pitcher, and he is 10 times better than I was when I was in high school. But you sit here, and they are very much, they're scrutinized and stuff through the social media. When you turn on that social media, all of a sudden you automatically go, oh my gosh, look look at this 12-year-old throwing 95, and you're like, holy gosh, what do I do to get better? How do I do this? And so that's part of me, and what I enjoy the most is like saying, hey, let's just enjoy the game. Let's really enjoy the pureness of the game. So, and like other teams that we've played, I bunt and hit and run, and I work those types of things, and try to play the game as truthful as possible. But I think the game has changed in large amounts just because of the social media, and so just playing that app, kind of playing in between and trying to keep guys in check has been a joy for me, because I know how difficult it is.
Do you think some of those purist strategies should be utilized more in Major League Baseball? What do you think about the direction of that part of the game today?
Well, I think what's unique about today's game, and I'm hoping I'm answering this correctly, is that we're wanting to speed the game up. We're wanting to cut out some of the dead air. Well, I get that, and that's fine. I think the bigger bases are great. I think the clock is great. I have no problem with the clock. I think by the time you're in the big leagues, you pretty much know what you need to do and what your strengths and weaknesses are. So you should know how to move quickly. I think the minor leaguers today have a much better attitude on it, and they have made that adjustment. But I mean, the pureness of the game is still the bunts. Now the bunt is going to become, the steal is getting back in more into it, because now you can only pick off at a certain time. And now you've got pitching coaches strategizing, when do I pick off? All right, when am I stealing it? 2 seconds into the pitch clock. I can do these things. And so now you're tinkering with these things. So I think there's still scheme and stuff. I mean, I'm a traditionalist, so I was all about the DH. I thought that was great. I wasn't a very good hitter. That's why I was a pitcher. And so now, I like that DH. I like being able to pinch hit and do some things in that fashion. But I think, there is, facing a straight 9 with the DH now, is a little different. That was an American League thing, and you got to enjoy it. But now you experience it throughout the league and stuff. Did
you ever get in at bat in a Major League game?
Unfortunately, yes. And I say that, very rarely did I get an at bat that I wanted, because if I got an at bat, I usually sucked some way and I had to stay in the game and I blew a save or something like that. But occasionally, I would get that at bat where we were winning. I had to come in and hold a lead. I got that lead, and so my at bat came up and stuff like that. Now, the good thing is that is one of those experiences that I get to hold over these kids that I do have 2 hits in the big leagues, and that it's not as difficult as they keep making it out to be. But now my oldest son plays, and he's in AAA, and now he actually got to pitch 2 innings in A ball in a blowout game and threw scoreless, and so he gives me a hard time talking about how easily it is to pitch. And so it does give a good perspective when all you've done is pitch, and now you're getting a bat here and there. It does give a good perspective of like, hitting is not as easy as it looks when all you're doing is pitching. But that was fun. I mean, some of my at bats weren't as fun as I expected when you're facing Nin and some of these guys that throw very hard and with really good stuff. You can really look foolish, but I had fun with it. I would tell the catcher, I'm like, hey, can you do this? Because I really want to see what this looks like. And so they'd go out there. I mean, I'm striking out anyway, buddy. Come on, it doesn't really matter what you throw. I want to see what all these guys are clamoring about. So to be able to get to see those things, that was fun.
Billy Wagner, MLB legend, here with us on Sports Talk Chicago. Billy, what's the key to being a good closer?
Having a good manager. I mean, it really is. And have somebody that believes in you and keeps giving you a chance. I mean, you can't have numbers if you don't have somebody that's going to, weather some of the storms that a closer goes through. Because no matter how good you are, you're going to have a bad week. You're going to have a bad weekend. I mean, I think we've all had, every closer that's ever played had press where it's talked about not being the same, or you're is this the end? I mean, I'm playing in New York. I read articles about Mo. I read articles about Trevor and Johnny Franco and Rob Nin and all these guys that Lee Smith. I mean, you just can't have it. You have that. But what I think is amazing is when you have the manager that just can weather that storm and sticks by you and keeps putting you out there. And I did. Larry Durker was great, letting me learn how to be that closer and have consistency. And when you have that, when you're a good closer, it's because that manager is giving you chances to keep going out there. And then you figure it out how to rebound from a bad game. And you can't have success without the failure. And you can't make these adjustments without it. And so, I really contribute a lot to Terry Collins, Larry Durker. I mean, these guys, Jimmy Williams, and guys just continue to give me that opportunity when I was in Houston to be that closer and get those chances.
How did you do it for so many years? You see closers today with, at times, a shorter shelf life in Major League Baseball. You lasted for a long time, put up 420-plus saves. How did you do it?
Well, I mean, I think the love of going out there. I loved when I came up, I was a starter, and I hated starting. Right. It was good on the day you started, but the other 4 days was not much fun because you were thinking about that start or whatever. But there was something about being, you felt like an everyday player as a closer. You could go out every day and compete. You had a role to play. You had to be on the edge. You weren't just sitting in the dugouts and thinking about what was going on and what was happening. And you knew that a 3-run lead, you got to be ready. You knew what time that lineup was, how it was being flipped, and who to be ready for. And there was something having that mentality of every day being ready. And I mean, that was the fun part and the joy of the game, going to the park every day, knowing that you had a chance to play. And so that was, and that goes back to if you're successful, you get to play more. And so that was a joy. And, I was on a ton of good teams that gave me those opportunities. And when you play on teams that are good, you get those opportunities, and it gives you that longevity.
Let me ask you this. What was the most dominant save or appearance that you made in your career, if you could recall?
The most dominant appearance for a save?
Yes.
Gosh, I don't know. I think, there's a couple, I think, that really stand out. And I think the two that stand out to me was probably real early in my career against San Francisco in Houston. And it was I came in the game, and I think Bagwell had made an error. I think Biggio makes an error. I walk a guy. I've got one out. Randy Knorr comes out, and being green and naive is really a blessing. So, but he comes out and he goes, "Hey man, we're going to throw 6 fastballs here, and we're going to the house." So I'm like, "Okay, here we go." Well, the next 2 guys I'm facing is Barry Bonds and Matt Williams. So I mean, that was the first introduction to a high pressure situation, and I ended up punching out the side or punching those 2 guys out. And so you're like, okay, and that was when you got that respect. I remember Bagwell and them. That's when everybody was like, "Oh, wait a minute, this guy's special. This could be something unique and stuff." But and then I think the next one might have been, and that's because it's probably closer to the end of my career, but and I can remember it is. I think it was for my 400 save against Detroit in Atlanta, and I punched out the side. I think there was, I'm sure there was a few other ones, but I think those stand out because I think the San Francisco really gave me, everybody stood up and took notice of what I did against those 2 great hitters. But I mean, I think, to get to that 400th and punch out the side still showed that dominance. So, I mean, there were some, I'm sure there were many. I think, there were probably plenty more, but I think those stood out to me right off the top of my head.
How did 400 feel for you? When you got to the 400 mark, what did it feel like?
Well, because there was nobody knew what the Hall of Fame number was for a closer. It hadn't been established that, if you get this save, you're on making like a 300 wins and 3,000 hits and all these things. You didn't know. So 400 seemed to be like, that might be the number that kind of said like, hey, this establishes you as a dominating player. You get into the Hall of Fame, you have credentials, that kind of thing. But that night going out there, I remember running in and, you really don't realize how many people know about this. And and that night, I come in, I had some of my college teammates that were happened to be there. Um, it was packed house. And I remember running out and it just felt different. It was kind of like that, just in the zone type thing where you're kind of out of body, and it felt like you were just, and it was just one of those easy nights where you punched outside, and it didn't seem like you put a lot into it. It was just effortless, and it's just one of those magical nights that you have occasionally, and that's how that felt. But knowing that, you also thought that was leading to something bigger.
So I assume you kind of had an idea, hey, this is significant. This is a big deal that I got to 400.
There hadn't been many. I think at that time there was only a handful of guys, and I mean, since then I think Frankie Rodriguez, I think Kimbrel and Kenley have gotten it since then. But I think at that point there was only 4 or 5 of us. So yeah, it was significant knowing that what you'd established and stuff. And so that seemed to be the staple point. Not really knowing what it really was, and because closers weren't valued quite like I don't really want to use Mariano as a closer, because he was a completely different animal when he played. He wasn't. So for some of the lower level closers, I guess we'll call them, that seemed big deal. And I should add Hoffman too, because Lord have mercy, those two got so many saves together. I mean, they named an award after them. So I think those are unique. Those are two unique. I think everybody else in that 400 are kind of in that situation where you feel like, that's the number, and your dominance shows the efficiency.
Definitely. More with Billy Wagner coming up next. We still have to talk about his Hall of Fame candidacy. You don't want to miss that coming up in the next segment. Stay with us here on Sports Talk Chicago. Sports Talk Chicago, Jon Zaghloul, John Meadows back here with you. Billy Wagner is our guest. He's going to come back here in just a second. Be sure to follow us all over at Sports Talk Chicago. You miss any of this show, including this great, exciting, exclusive interview, head over to sportstalkchicago.com and podcast it. You can also find the video on our YouTube page. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit up all of our great radio and TV affiliates that we're on every single week. WKAN 105.5 The Ticket, ACTV, JED-TV, WJOB, and Cities 92.9 Talk FM. We're still here with Billy Wagner, 7-time All-Star, current Baseball Hall of Fame candidate, and the head baseball coach at the Miller School. Talked a lot about Billy's coaching career and obviously playing career in the first segment. And Billy, with you here now, let's talk about the big news out there. The cat's out of the bag. It's your 9th year on the ballot out of 10 for the Baseball Hall of Fame. What do you make of your Hall of Fame case today?
Well, I'm not a very good car salesman, so I know that if I go talking about my candidacy, it's not going to go very well. So I'm only going to shoot myself in the foot. But I think when you talk about those things, and I think what I would like to talk about when we talk about my candidacy is like the Todd Heltons, the Gary Sheffields, the guys like that, the Andrew Jones, guys like that are similar situations I am. We're on the cusp. There's those, we did it the right way. There was no steroid implications. Your name wasn't leaked out there to anything. I think things like that. I think being a stand-up person, answering the call, not always being the best. I've always been known for having very good interviews because I was never afraid to step away, and probably should have at times. But I think when you view yourself with these types of candidates, and you watch and what Andrew Jones was when he stepped in when he was young, and the difference he made in a team. I don't. Greg Maddux isn't Greg Maddux without Andrew Jones. Neither is Glavine. The runs that the normal center fielder gives up is different than what Andrew Jones gives up, and you're a different player. And so for every good closer, there was so many people behind you that made these great plays. And I wouldn't be where I'm at today, wouldn't have the success I had today if I hadn't had those types of players. And so when you think about the Sheffields and their abilities to go out and do what they did on a consistency, and think Gary's got like close to 1,500 or 1,500 RBIs or something like that. I mean, those are substantial. Those are big time things. And I mean, he's and I think Andrew Jones and Todd Hilton playing in the era that he did. And I don't care where you play, you still got to produce. I mean, we can talk about this all we want, but I think those guys. I'm excited for those guys. It would be, I think Adrian Beltre will definitely go in. I think there will be no doubt about that. He was a great player from the day he stepped on the field. So, I'm happy about that. It's fun to watch that. Jim Leyland being in the Hall of Fame is fantastic and well overdue. What a great stigma. What just a personality for the game. True champion. For myself, to be put in that situation is an honor. To be on that page, to be looked at in that way is an honor. I'm not going to stand here and say that, the way I feel about myself, I did what I was supposed to do. As my grandfather said, I didn't do anything that I wasn't supposed to do. So going out and winning games and striking people out and getting saves is what I was paid to do. So those are difficult questions for me to answer because I feel that those are for the guys that I played against. They're the ones that should be answering, is Billy Wagner a Hall of Famer? Those are the guys that I think that I respect.
What have any of your peers, if said about you and about your candidacy in terms of the Hall of Fame?
Well, I think a few guys. I think, Trevor came out saying he thought I was a Hall of Famer, which is always good when you have your peers that are already in. Chipper, Tom Glavine, Bagwell, and Biggio. There's been a handful. There's been, I'm sure, plenty. I don't know right off the top of my head, but I know that those are guys that the press has reached out to find out what they think. And I think when guys that are in the Hall of Fame can say, I think they know what a Hall of Famer is. I think they have an idea, and so when you reach out, especially guys you played with, they know you inside and out. They know you in the locker room. They know you on the bus rides. They know you in the flights. They know you on the field, off the field. They know all these things. And so when you get that type of pat on the back by a Chipper Jones or Jeff Bagwell, they've seen you good and bad. They've seen all the things, the positive things, the times you talked about their family more than you've talked about their bad. I think there's, we talk about the character, those types of things. Those are the guys that I think, that's why I think those types of guys mean more. And I think, I mean, why players, when they should probably have more of an impact on who they think. It's not a biased thing when you do have dominance, and I think it's very easy when you don't know players. Like, I mean, I wouldn't expect a guy out in California to know Billy Wagner. I mean, I wasn't out there a lot. But I think when you talk and you meet a Billy Wagner, you see a difference. When you're in the batter's box and people see it, it's different. So, I think that, for me, all I can do by talking about my candidacy is shoot myself in the foot.
How have you felt about the recent growth of support for you, though? I mean, you debuted around, 10.5%. Last year you got up to 68%. You still have 2 years left. How have you felt about that growth in general?
Well, in a lot of ways, surprised. I'm surprised. I mean, I really stopped looking. Last year was a total shock. I mean, that jumped that way. And I think it's made this year a little bit harder, of course, because now, 27 votes out. Jesus Ortiz has been a good friend of mine who has really pushed for my candidacy and talking and to other people and, trying to get people to be a Billy Wagner supporter. And I'm really, really thankful for him and that. And then Gene Diaz in Houston has been very good for me, pushing out my agenda for that. And Jay Horowitz for the Mets. Jay's been fantastic and always been a big supporter. It's great to see this jump, but it is nerve-wracking because that 27 votes are very hard to get. And, and that's like getting those last 3 outs in the ninth inning. Those are the hardest ones to get. And so, you know, trying to talk to people, and that's something I don't do. So I'm not reaching out to people. I don't know half these people, and I don't want to go out there and sway somebody because I don't know them. They don't know me, and I don't think it's right to do that. You either like me and believe that this is because you see me compete and you know where those stats are, and you have a true feel, and it's a true unbiased feel. That's the way it should be. So I'm very happy. Hopefully, somehow, some way, I get 27, get 75% to make that jump.
How do you feel around this time of year? I mean, it sounds like clearly and understandably you're a bit nervous. I mean, this year and the next, you only got 2 years left. You're so close. What are those feelings like inside of you when this time comes around?
Well, it's more when I do these interviews that I start to really get nervous because we talk about it. I have no idea where I stand right now. I have no idea where I stand with in voting. I don't pay attention to it because I'm not good with disappointment. I think my kids know about it more than I do. I think it's bad is when you see people write them negative things, so that you can't control, and your kids read it, and those are the toughest part. Those are the tough, and so not my advice. It's just been I don't want to know. I just say I don't want to know. These things are I think it is what it is. I think if it's meant to be, it'll be. But at this point, I'm gearing up for spring baseball, and so I've got New Year's coming up. I'm going to hang out with my family, go watch my daughter in Nashville play basketball, and then I'm just going to really dive into that baseball, the high school baseball, and take my mind and a lot of that pressure off of me.
What would it mean to you if you got in?
Well, I mean, it's that's what we all play for. I mean, you play for rings and to be, and I feel like when you're voted in, there is a substantial respect for you and what you've done for the game and how you went about playing that game and your character in the game. I think there's something that there's just a huge effect that you're able to feel, and a pride that I don't think it's something you describe until you get there. I think thinking back and thinking about the guys that went before you and watching millions and millions of these, it feels like they're Hall of Fame speeches. I mean, going back and listening to some of the media talk about guys how they practiced, and it's I know it'll be very emotional. I know it'll be I don't even know what day it even comes out, but I mean, I'm sure somebody will let me know, and I'm sure that day, if I do happen to get a call, it'll be I know I'll be on a baseball field when I get the call, so it'll be pretty emotional.
You had mentioned earlier people like Andrew Jones, Todd Helton, Larry Walker recently got in. Do you feel like your case, your candidacy provides some hope for people like that who didn't really have a lot of support to begin with, but their support, like yours, has grown greatly?
Did I lose you, John?
Yep. Can you hear me now, Billy?
A little bit.
Okay. I don't know if you can hear me, but I was just asking you about some of these other players who you had mentioned earlier, people like Andrew Jones and Todd Helton, Larry Walker just got in too. Do you feel like your candidacy gives them some hope? Because you started out low and obviously ascended to where you are now. They're kind of in that same position.
Well, I definitely. I think people get to know you a little bit more the more you're on the ballot. I think people get to look at Andrew Jones, the Sheffields, the Heltons, a little longer, and really get to dive into just how great they really are. And I've been blessed to be on this ballot this long, and and when you look back at guys who had been on this ballot before and didn't get in, and then went to the Veterans Committee. I mean, Lee Smith, is the epitome of that. Even the Fred McGriff Guys like that, are great examples of what can happen. So you can't give up hope. I think being on this ballot gives you is really should give you some pride and some hope. And the longer you're on here, the more you have a shot at getting into getting to the ultimate prize. So I think guys will get in. I think I really hope that Gary Sheffield gets in this year, and I really hope that Todd gets in. I know he's really super close, and I think that Andrew will definitely get in. And I think that hopefully somehow there's 27 voters out there that feel like I'm worthy. So fingers crossed, I guess.
I will say this. I know you said you didn't want to make your case. I'll make it for you for an extent. This is me talking, not you. So I want to make your case just for a second here. More strikeouts per nine than Trevor Hoffman, better ERA plus than Trevor Hoffman, better ERA in general than Hoffman. Now, you made less appearances, of course, but nevertheless, the rate stats show that there was dominance for a long, long period of time from 95 to 2010. So, you don't even have to react to that necessarily, but the numbers are there to support your case, and I hope that more voters see that here with 2 years left to go.
I think I lost you again, John.
Oh, can you hear me now, Billy?
Yeah, you're kind of in and out.
Oh, okay. Well, I was just gonna, as I had mentioned, I'm just making the case for you here. You don't need to worry about this, okay? I'm making the case, and everybody who's listening and watching, he didn't tell me to do this. I'm making the case. This is my case for Billy Wagner. More strikeouts per nine than Trevor Hoffman. That's a fact. Better ERA plus than Trevor Hoffman. Also a fact. Better ERA than Hoffman too. Now, you made less appearances. Nevertheless, that exists. So the numbers are there. I just want to make that clear for people who still might be on the edge as they listen or watch this show later. And I think something's to be said there. Now, Billy, you could react if you want. You don't have to, but something is there when it comes to your candidacy, and I'm hoping that more voters pick up on it.
You broke up. I'm sorry. You broke up again.
Nope, you're good. We're just talking about your candidacy. Those numbers show that there's something there for you. And I hope that voters see it.
Well, I mean, that's what longevity gets you, right? I mean, there's so many numbers out there anymore, and when you think about dominance and what really is your grading factor, I mean, that's what you're looking for. And so when you're looking for, where was he dominant? I mean, in 16 years, the league hit 187 against you. I mean, what else do you want him to do? I mean, 33% of the time I was striking somebody out. I mean, those are things that, and I mean, I hope that when people are thinking about, hey, do I want to vote for this guy or not, that they're not thinking about, anything more than just the numbers, because the numbers are what you're graded on, not, not knowing somebody or somebody hearsay. Until you know the person, you can't really talk about character.
Billy Wagner still here with us on Sports Talk Chicago. Billy, a few more questions here before we finish up. First off, how did you become a left-handed pitcher?
Well, you would think, I'd done it myself, but it was luck. Honestly, pure luck. Playing football in my grandmother's front yard and getting tackled and fell on and breaking my right arm, and then going out shortly after that, a couple months later, I think it was, and on the monkey bars and falling and breaking it again. So, I mean, obviously God is real and has a real purpose for you, because there's no way that happens. And I turn left-handed and able to throw 100 miles an hour. So, there was something to that, and very blessed in that regards. But I don't think anybody was looking at that at that point when I was growing up. But man, it's crazy to think how things are now when you look back at how that all transpired.
You never tried using both arms, did you, to pitch?
No. Left-handed was hard enough, but what I did do, I would throw BP at times. I'll throw BP at times, just to kind of give guys a view. It's not the best, but earlier I was a lot better when I was able to. I was a little bit more regular in playing catch. Me and Darryl Powell used to trade gloves and play catch with each other because Darryl Kyle was a natural lefty, and he was dirty. He was really, really good, and so we would play catch, and so that was one of those uniquenesses when you saw it. I mean, Kenny Rogers used to give me a hard time about, he thought he could throw harder and further right-handed until he realized that I was naturally right-handed. So that did play to his side, but but I mean, it just goes back to say you just never know what's going to happen that's going to create that opportunity, and so you just got to be ready to take it when it comes.
Who was the toughest hitter you ever faced in baseball?
Well, the stats say Miguel Olivo. I mean, Miguel was very difficult for me. I don't know, and I shouldn't say I don't know why. He was really good. I mean, he was a good player. He was just just one of those things. The ball looked fat and meaty when I pitched to him a lot of times. But man, he was very good. But I mean, when there are so many great hitters. I mean, David Eckstein, guys that were the hardest guys. No disrespect to Pujols and Barry and McGuire and guys like that. I mean, man, they were great. And you really had to focus on them. And you know what? If you waned at least a little bit when you faced the Ecksteins and guys like that, all of a sudden when you did face the big dudes they had guys on base that could really hurt you. Now, those were the guys, and I think, the Juan Pierres don't get their credit. I think the David Ecksteins and guys like that would grind out at bats. I mean, Mike Lowell, gosh, I thought Mike Lowell was one of the best hitters I'd ever really faced just because, I mean, he was just simple and was really just good at just keeping things simple and hitting well. So, I mean, there was a lot of guys that, I had success against some of the bigger names, but I think the guys that give me fits were the guys that probably didn't have the big names and the big pop, but were just table setters that, helped the big guys get their numbers.
And Billy, before we finish up today, last question. How's your faith impacted your baseball career and your life here today? I'd love to hear it.
Well, when you come from where I came from, broken home, you come from and going through multiple schools and breaking your arm and going from right hand to left hand. I mean, I think faith plays a huge part because I know that God is real and God's working through me because of what He's allowed me to accomplish. The light that He's put on me to be a positive influence to kids and young adults to help in those moments. Baseball was the podium for me to be on, to give me that opportunity. And I think, God's using that for me to help other people that may not have, a strong belief or understand, or go through a tough time. And just to know that, great things come from struggles. And a lot of times when you're struggling, that's that test. And, and I think God is giving us tests every day. And, I think that was just one of those tests that allowed me to get to this point. And I think, without God being in my life, I couldn't have been successful. I don't think I would have my wife and my kids, a career. I don't think I would be able to do any of those successful things without having that blessing in my life. And so, my grandparents from day one woke up in the morning reading the Bible and went to bed reading the Bible. And to this day, I wake up in the morning and I read the Bible because I think that that's the part that keeps me whole, and that it's the probably only thing in my life that I feel is a real fulfillment is reading God's word and knowing that He's got a plan for me.
Billy, I love it. I always love having you on. You are welcome anytime. It's always beyond a pleasure to have you, and I'm looking forward to seeing these results come out. Again, for any writer listening, vote for Billy Wagner. Don't be an idiot. Don't leave him off. Vote for Billy Wagner. Put him on your ballot. That way he can get into the Hall of Fame. And Billy, looking forward to staying in touch, man, and having you on again soon.
Oh, anytime, John. It's always a pleasure. I appreciate it.
We'll be right back here on Sports Talk Chicago. Bears football coming up. Don't want to miss it. Right here in a sec. Sports Talk Chicago, Jon Zaghloul back at it here with you. John Meadows directing and producing. Big thank you to all of our great radio and TV affiliates. WKAN 105.5 The Ticket, ACTV, Cities 92.9 FM, WJOB and Jet TV. Last segment here of the program going to be Bears heavy, but want to make sure I mention that if you missed any part of this show, including just a captivating, honest, candid interview with Billy Wagner, who's on the Hall of Fame ballot for Major League Baseball, who's on his 9th year and may get in this year. Got to go back and podcast it at sportstalkchicago.com. You can watch the full interview as well on the YouTube page at Sports Talk Chicago. You could like the video and also subscribe to the channel for more great interviews and content there. Billy was great and certainly appreciative of him for coming on, especially with the results for the balloting coming out here in a couple of weeks. So we really hope that he gets in. Bears football. It's been so much going on. I know people have been angry in the comments, angry about what's going on with Justin Fields and the Bears. And boy, do I have a report to get people even more pissed off. Well, let me put it this way. A Bears insider thinks that the Justin Fields decision has already been made. This is via Sports Mockery, but also it comes from an aggregation of Adam Johns of The Athletic. So here's what John said, though, and this was in an article. He wrote this. I'm surprised he wrote it. Quote, the Moneyball reality, though, is that Justin Fields' current level of production, particularly as a passer, shouldn't be that difficult to replace, and that the team adds a quarterback on a rookie contract. The next step for Poles and the Bears can simply be taking Williams or May with the Panthers pick, and then the best player on their draft board with their own pick, which would still be in the top 10. They could also trade that second first-rounder for more draft capital. Ryan Poles is prepared for these conversations. He built himself this situation. This is the biggest quote of the day. Ryan Poles, quote, built himself this situation to pivot from Fields. If he considered it the best move for the team, his decision comes next. That's Adam Johns talking about Justin Fields and the looming decision that Ryan Poles has to make. People don't want to hear it. People are mad about it. But has Justin Fields improved that much? And that's my next question. And I know he's improved a little bit. He's certainly better from, today to year one, right? His rookie year was obviously a disaster and, a lot of issues there. There were problems, right? But Justin Fields is a similar quarterback. Justin Fields has always been the same quarterback. He's averaging 1 touchdown and 1 pick a game for his entire career. He's averaging on a per-season basis less than 3,000 passing yards. I mean, Adam Johns is not incorrect in his assessment. Whether you like it or not, that's up to you, but the numbers don't lie. And I'm going to make comparisons and make thoughts and make prognostications based on numbers and based on the reality of the situation, whether you like it or not. Okay. Adam Johns said it cut and dry. Ryan Poles built himself this situation to pivot from Fields if necessary, and that Fields' current level of production, particularly as a passer. I'm not talking about running. He's a great runner. To his credit, I've never once bashed his ability to move the football with his legs, whether it be scrambling, whether it be designed runs. I don't like the fact that running seems to be his first resort over passing, because it's pretty true. If anything breaks down immediately, he's running. That's not what a quarterback should do, but nevertheless, he finds ways to make plays, finds ways to make a highlight reel play per game, move the ball forward, run, and score, right? I'm not going to bash his running ever. It's great. It's entertaining. As a passer, though, we got a different conversation. We got a different situation that we have to discuss. And Ryan Poles and Kevin Warren and company, I'm sure, are discussing it every single day at Hallis Hall. Matt Eberflus isn't, because he's going to be fired, I hope. Fields' current level of production, particularly, specifically as a passer, shouldn't be that difficult to replace. Shouldn't be that difficult to replace. That's what they say about Justin Fields. And you could cry and whine all you want, but the fact is, based on his numbers, it isn't difficult to replace. He's averaging 195 yards per game this year. That's a record, but that's his best year ever, passing 195 yards per game. People have bemoaned the Bears for years, even as far as I can remember, talking about Jay Cutler, Kyle Orton, Rex Grossman, Tate McDown. Why aren't they ever passing for 300 yards in a game? Well, they could make the same criticism for Justin Fields, too. He's averaging 195 a game, and his passer rating's actually worse than last year. Oh, but wait a minute. The interceptions that were counted against him were dropped both times. They shouldn't have counted. BS. The fact is, these are the numbers, and this is what it says. And what it says here is that he has 15 touchdowns and 9 picks. His completion percentage has regressed back to where it was last year. It's actually almost similar. His passing yards are up. His touchdowns are about the same. They might be a little bit higher if he played a full 16, 17-game season. His interceptions are right on par, if not going to be worse. So, what are we talking about here? I mentioned this last week, and I'm going to say it again because it seems like the calls to keep Fields are getting louder and louder. And if you don't agree, you're going to get barraged with comments like we have. Here's the facts of the matter. If you still have to justify and really dig your heels in about the candidacy of Justin Fields, about his future here in Chicago, about what they should do, then you're guilty. And he's guilty of not being able to stay. It's Mitch Trubisky all over again. Whether you supported him or not, the fact is there was a group who loved him and a group who didn't. And those who loved him stuck their heels in forever, even to this day. Those who didn't like him said ship him off after 2 years in Chicago, let alone 4 or 5 that he got. It's the same thing here. And at the end of the day, I like Mitch. He left. And you know what? It worked out. It did work. It worked out for everybody. But now we have a different situation. We have a staunch group of supporters who are Justin Fields truthers, if you will. And then we have those who are actually looking at this from a realistic lens. The reality is hitting, whether people like it or not. 15 touchdowns and 9 picks is not elite. I see people every day, I saw it today, comparing Justin Fields to Lamar Jackson. There were questions being asked to the effect of, maybe not at the numbers level, but should Lamar Jackson and Justin Fields be compared together? You got to be kidding me. But here's the funny part. They leave out the numbers stuff. They say, not at the numbers level, but just on the eye test, they're the same, right? Dumb question. What are you talking about? Leave out the numbers. Lamar Jackson's a winner, MVP, great quarterback. No doubt about it. Justin Fields, way different story. He's not an MVP. He's not a winner. And he's not a great quarterback. He's all right. Everybody is jumping through hula hoops, trying to find ways to justify him staying. Everybody's jumping through, I don't even know, they're leaping hurdles to try and keep this kid. I like Justin Fields as a person. I like him as a runner. I don't like him as a passer. And economically speaking, financially speaking, for this team, it also makes sense to get rid of him because you're improving the roster around him. You don't have to pay him anything. You're bringing a rookie quarterback with a good roster. That's how you're going to win football games. Dealing with this, again, is going to be worse. And here's the kicker. Let's say they fire Luke Getsy and keep Justin Fields. Let's say Justin doesn't do well next year or does average again. What's the excuse going to be then? It's his third coordinator in 4 years. The excuses will never end. The justifications will never end. It's just going to be continually defending him. And I'm all right defending somebody if you come out and say, hey, I'm a fan first. Or conversely, if you say, hey, I have some numbers to prove otherwise. There are no numbers to prove that Justin Fields is elite. And the people who continually defend him are not being honest, coming out saying, hey, I'm a fan of him first, so I'm going to defend him. If you're truly a fan of his, you're a follower of his, you followed him since college, you like him, you have an affinity towards him, and you state that, I got no issue with you defending him. Really, I don't. We all have our favorites. Everybody does. If you say you're unbiased, there's no way, right? Everybody has an inkling or leaning towards somebody. You just heard me talk about Billy Wagner, right? Yeah, I want him to be in the Hall of Fame. I came out and stated that bias. That's fine, right? But when you don't state it, claim you're being unbiased, and then bring up BS numbers that have nothing to do with the situation, or bring up hearsay like, well, I think Justin Fields and Lamar Jackson are similar, but not from a numbers perspective, then you look like a dummy. And I am so sick of jumping through hoops and making unbelievable justifications to keep Justin Fields. At the end of the day, the numbers speak for themselves, whether you like it or not. Sorry. The Bears might keep him, and I'll look like an idiot, over the offseason. Oh, see, we told you, they kept him. You know what? You didn't tell me anything. You showed me that they settled for mediocrity at the passing position, not at the running position. He's a great runner. In terms of passing the football, if they keep Justin Fields, they're settling for mediocrity or average quarterback play. He's not a top 15 quarterback in football. and they're gonna have the number 1, maybe number 2 pick next year. How do you not draft a quarterback when you have that waiting in the wings? You have a roster that's getting better, and you could save money in addition to getting rid of somebody who isn't just amazing. He's okay, but he's not amazing. I heard people on the radio last week, and now it's coming out more and more saying, well, he may never be an elite quarterback. No one's giving them crap. Why are you giving it to me then? Oh, my goodness. Justin Fields. He's a nice guy, good quarterback in terms of running, in terms of skill, in terms of athleticism, just not good enough passing. Once we all accept that, it's going to be easier to move on, look towards the future, because there's an exciting future here in Chicago. Bring in a new head coach, you draft a quarterback, this roster gets better. You're talking about a 10-win team next year. There's no reason why this team can't win 10 games next year with a better, enhanced roster, with a new head coach and a new quarterback. No reason why not. But if they keep Justin Fields, just expect the same old to occur. Bears and Falcons are going to be facing off this weekend. Could this be a precursor to Justin Fields' new team? I kid, of course, but there have been lots of talks about Justin Fields going there. Remember, Ryan Pace is an executive there. Phil Embry's still an executive there. Ryan Pace drafted Justin Fields. Obviously, Pace saw something in him. Maybe something occurs there. I don't know, but it's a thought. Fields and company are going to face off against Atlanta this weekend. Atlanta's playing for something right now, but they got their backup quarterback in, Taylor Heineke, because Desmond Ridder is a bust. That's a fact. Atlanta needs to win to stay alive in the NFC South divisional race. They're 7-8 right now. Tampa Bay's 8-7. I believe if Tampa wins and the Falcons even win, though, I think they might be out. So the Falcons really need to win and get some help. They're going to be playing from a position of desperation. Taylor Heineke's been okay in the limited time he's gotten, 4 touchdowns, 1 pick. Heineke, though, in the past and even up until today, always has interception trouble. He plays a gutsy game, and I like that about him. He's certainly a competitor, but he has interception trouble, completion percentage trouble, as evidenced by his 60% rating or percentage this year. And he's not a starting caliber quarterback. Now, running the football, they're going to have Bijan Robinson, who, ironically enough, was Roschon Johnson's RB1 in college. Bijan Robinson was the number 1 running back, and Roschon kind of backed him up. So they're going to face Bijan Robinson, who's had a great rookie season. Despite limited carries, only 188, almost has 1,000 yards, averaging 5+ yards per carry. Tyler Algier is going to be running too. Cordero Patterson's in the mix now as a running back as well. That's going to be fun. And Jonnu Smith, Kyle Pitts, Drake London. I mean, this team is not bad in terms of Atlanta. I think they're going to come away with a win in this game because they're playing for their season right now. They're playing for their season. I think it's going to be a close game. If the Bears win the turnover battle, then I'll be wrong, right? I'm fine with being wrong on it, but this is for their season. If they lose, it's over. Even if they win, it could be over. Maybe they're playing for Arthur Smith. He could be on the hot seat, too, at the end of this season. Who knows? They're certainly playing for a new quarterback, though, too. Maybe it'll be Justin Fields. So my prediction for this one is going to be close, but for the Bears, no cigar. The Bears are going to fall in this one. My prediction is 24-20 they lose. The Bears are going to lose this one 24-20 to Atlanta. It's going to be a close game, probably going to be a fun game. Maybe Justin Fields does something spectacular again, but just can't come up with a victory when needed. And at the end of the day, everyone's still being evaluated. I think the decision's been made, but I certainly hope that Fields does well. You know, Eberflus is still in the hot seat. These evaluations, quote-unquote, are still being made, so we'll see how they do, too. Getsy as well. All 3 of them are in the ringer right now, and we're going to have to see how all this plays out for them and their future. But, you know, this game and then the Packers are all that's left, and then all of a sudden the offseason of chaos will occur, and we're going to see what exactly the Bears do. 2 games left, that's it. 2 games left to determine or start to end the determination of their future. There's a lot at stake here. So we'll see how this one plays out. My thoughts are Bears are going to fall in this one, though, 24-20. And that'll do it for us here today on Sports Talk Chicago. I appreciate everybody tuning in. A huge, huge thank you to Billy Wagner. If anybody out there is listening, again, especially if you're a baseball writer, vote for him. Put him in the Hall of Fame. He deserves it. Great guy, great person off air, on air. Really happy he joined us here today. Big thank you to John Meadows, directing and producing. and all of you for tuning in. Follow us all over at Sports Talk Chicago. Hit the like button. Subscribe to us on YouTube at Sports Talk Chicago. And a big thank you to all of our great TV and radio affiliates. WKAN 105.5 The Ticket, ACTV, JTV, WJOB, and Cities 92.9 Talk FM. Remember, too, if you're around on Sunday, we're going to have the live broadcast of Bears Falcons on the Sports Talk Chicago YouTube page. So be sure to check that out as well. Thank you so much for watching and listening. Until next week, so long, everyone.